Riddle me this. What do you think the possibility is that as you're standing in the grocery store, the person standing next to you in the aisle is paying a different price for the exact same item that you both just picked up? When I first heard about this, about personalized pricing at supermarkets, I thought, sure, for online shopping or curbside, maybe. Because, of course, there's more energy and effort that has to be put into that by the store in order to make those things work. But the actual grocery store charging different people different prices when standing in the store for the same items, that felt completely different to me. And I think that we need to remember that food isn't a luxury. It's a necessity, something that every single person has to buy. And the idea that technology could begin deciding what I'm willing to pay versus what you're willing to pay, it didn't sit right with me. Now, I know, Cole, I know we cannot legislate morality, but I do think that we should expect better from the companies that we support and hold each other and these companies accountable. So today we're talking about digital price tags, algorithms, fairness, and whether technology is helping consumers or quietly working against them.
What caught my attention about this topic is how quickly the way we shop is changing. Grocery store we all grew up with isn't necessarily the grocery store we're walking into today. Whether it's loyalty apps, digital price labels, or technology making decisions behind the scenes, consumers need to understand what's happening because it could affect how and even what we choose to buy. And while some people may hardly notice these changes, others living on tight budgets could feel even every penny. Today, we're asking whether these pricing tools are simply the next evolution of retail or whether they've crossed a line that consumers should be paying attention to.
This conversation falls squarely in my wheelhouse because markets don't work unless people trust them. And as someone who follows financial markets for a living, I know that prices move all the time. That's completely normal. Supply and demand change, and the markets adjust. But we've also seen what happens when companies manipulate those markets. Just recently, some large egg producers were accused of artificially inflating egg prices. And while there were consequences, many people questioned whether the punishment matched the damage. We could dig into that later in the episode because it's a fascinating example of where free markets can break down. But for me, this isn't about more or less regulation. It's about smarter, better regulation, rules that keep markets fair and honest without choking innovation. So today we're asking, where should that line actually be? Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Mom. So, Cal, you brought this to us about the digital pricing. And at first I kind of thought, okay, I mean, when you were in Houston and I was here and we would look something up and you would have a different price for yours, I would think, oh, well, that must be, we've got a warehouse closer or something. So you don't have to put additional stuff in there. But that's not what you're talking about at all.
Nope, not even a little bit. So I saw a deep investigative journalism piece that was put on by Perfect Union, and they dug into all of these pricing details. So they got together with Consumer Reports and started doing a bunch of experiments of people saying, hey, Cole, you go buy a loaf of Wonder Bread, and Callie, you go buy the same loaf of Wonder Bread at the same store at the same time. We're both going to click buy, or we're both going to go purchase them at the same time. And the prices were different because it's all being based on your algorithm. Well, Cole tends to buy things in his Amazon cart quicker, where Callie sits on them for a couple of days and takes things out before she makes a purchase. So we think we can charge Cole more for this loaf of Wonder Bread, so we're going to. And we know that Callie isn't going to pay that much, so we're going to charge her a different price. We're still going to make the sale, but we're just going to do it with all of these mind games. And you guys, I was floored. I and kind of grossed out, if I'm really honest. I just like this isn't a luxury vehicle or something that nobody needs.
No,
These are
but this
loaves
is
of
them
bread.
digging this is them digging into what you do purchase, how you purchase it, when you purchase it, and making the pricing adjust to that. And
To
that's
charge you
just
as much as they possibly can. Not what's
yes.
fair, not what's right,
Well,
as
not
much as
even
they possibly can.
I mean, not even that it's an X amount markup. We spend 10 cents on this and we're going to mark it up, 10%. And so everybody's going to pay that. It doesn't have anything to do with that at all. It's, hey, we're going to charge that person 10%, but we're going to charge that one 15, but we're going to charge that one 30. That's nuts.
Yeah. This personalized pricing segment that is going on. So I'm trying to remember exactly where they found and pinpointed that it started. I'll put the video in the show notes because it's probably 15 or so minutes long, maybe 20 minutes long. So it's not short, but I'll put a link to it because it was fascinating. But it started at one of the like Favor or Uber Eats or something along those lines where it was using a service. And so everybody could use the same service. And because it already had all of their data and because it's being used on their phones, it was like, oh, we should actually put this into practice in real life. And so then I started looking at grocery stores, physically walking into grocery stores, looking for the little digital price tags on the shelves. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen those. And then I started paying more attention and, oh, they're over here and over there. And I did everything except stand there and hawkeye and watch as people walked up and to see whether or not it changed because I'm not a total creeper. But I just was so completely confused by the concept of this. Like, this feels like to me, and Cole, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. This feels like capitalism at its finest slash worst.
Yeah, I don't this is the dark side of capitalism. This is less capitalism and more corporatism.
Maybe so. But the more that I dug into this as a topic, the more sophisticated you could see how all of these companies were getting and how much the technology was becoming more and more almost undetectable, untraceable. And how so many corporations were like, "Oh no, we're not doing that." Except here's us warning you about it in our terms and conditions on our website that nobody's ever going on and reading that we are doing that. And here's evidence of it happening. And here's all kinds of research of other people having it happen to them. But we're not doing that.
So we probably need to say that this isn't every grocery store that you walk into. And I argued with you guys and thought, no, there is always a price on that loaf of bread that I'm going to buy. But there isn't. Not always.
Mom, you and I both know we can log into Amazon and look at the same item and it'll have a different price.
I know, but I was thinking going into the grocery store, standing on the bread aisle, that there would be a price. But not every store does that. And so I think that's your flag to say, hold on here. Something's fishy that I'm not getting a dollar amount here.
Yeah.
And I think that, we have talked about technology in a multitude of capacities previously, and especially AI. Like, to us, AI is a tool. And so part of me is sitting here thinking about these digital price tags the same way that I do digital signs for the price of gasoline. Like, the pricing fluctuates all of the time. So that makes sense. Like, look at them. Good on them for investing in the technology to say, hey, we want to be able to make those price changes and variations instantaneous. Okay. I can follow you there. I am not expecting you as a grocery store company to lose money because you're not on top of your own game. Okay, cool. But when it starts turning into unfairness based on factors that really don't have anything to do with the grocery store, that worries me.
We can get more out of Callie than we can Cole, so we're going to charge her more.
Right.
I
Might as
have
well.
literally been sitting here thinking, I bet I get the cheapest price out of everything than you two do. Y'all are more willing to spend money than I am, I think, for the most part. And so I'm just thinking it would be really curious to see
Hours.
who's the frugal one here and who, yeah, who isn't.
I mean, I'm with you, Mom. I think at the end of the day, you're the most frugal, I'm the next one, and Cole's the bougie one.
Probably fair. But at the same time, like, I'm also the one who's going to go spend 3 weeks researching an item before I make a decision as to which one I'm going to buy.
We were
True.
talking about dog boots tonight, specifically for the dog, and Cole was like, "I would buy several pairs and just return the one you like the least."
At 40
Yes,
bucks a pair. No.
you get the best possible outcome.
Unless you forget to return something.
So don't
Well,
forget.
but not only that, then it goes into the landfill because
Why
they
does it
can't
go into a
redo.
landfill?
Well, because if you return the ones that you don't like that have already been on your dog's foot, then they can't resell them. So they're just going to
Oh,
toss them out. They're
you
going to
think
go
they
to the
won't?
landfill. Resell them?
I think that, Cole, you should probably slow your roll because I want to say something like 80% of returns at Amazon, it may be even higher than that, never have any intention of being resold.
Absolutely.
It's outrageously high.
Yeah. And it's not just Amazon.
No. Enter the Atacama Desert. But this is a totally different topic for a totally different day. We have to get back on track now.
Okay.
So like I said, I want to think about this from the mindset of not only a consumer, but as a business owner, right? Because I think that is an important delineation that we need to take on here. So in general, we've learned this in high school economics. The highest price that you can sell it for is the highest price that somebody is willing to pay for it. Like, okay. So I get that kind of tension, that push and pull of, hey, I want to sell my loaf of bread for the highest peak value. But why are they changing? So historically speaking, companies kind of guessed at that. We think that people will buy this loaf of bread for X dollars and X cents. And they did or they didn't. And okay, fine. But technology being introduced to all of this has made those guesses much more accurate and has given them a much larger pool of data for them to analyze and say, so on Tuesdays, we can charge more for bread versus on Wednesdays because of the demographic that comes in and because of what's going on with payday and because of how this falls and this holiday, like whatever it may be, so they can be a lot more agile and nimble on changing those prices at the drop of a hat. So I also get from the perspective of a consumer that businesses aren't going at this to lose money. I don't expect them to.
Sure, but what's wrong with the traditional example of, hey, it cost me this much, I'm going to apply a markup, and the next time I buy it, maybe it costs me more. So I apply a markup and the price change.
Yeah.
Shocker. That's how supply and demand operates. That's how markets work. But to say, well, I'm going to charge you a 3% markup and I'm going to charge you a 15% markup because you'll still pay it is dishonest.
Right. And I think that that's kind of the big takeaway here for me. Consumers are upset because we're expecting price transparency that we're not getting. We're just kind of, as consumers, we're the dartboard and somebody's flinging stuff at us, hoping for it to stick.
But it's less that they're throwing stuff randomly at the dartboard. They're saying, I know I can hit that double 20. I know I'm going to get the bullseye every time.
Yeah, they're
because now
placing
I
them.
have a mechanical robot that performs the perfect throw every time, no matter what.
And that's where the fairness aspect of this just blows my mind. That's rigging the game. That's
Yeah.
running the table. Like, why are we as consumers not stepping up going, "Hey now, hold on. This."
Because I think people don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
think
mean,
this is
even if they
coming into
do know,
play, and
it's just like what we've talked about before. What are they supposed to do about it? Stop
Again,
shopping at that store, for
yeah,
one.
voting with your
But how do you
dollars.
know what stores are doing it?
well,
Research.
Good luck with
well,
that.
Yeah.
and it's just like we've said. I could look something up on Amazon and it be $10 for me. Cole, you could look it up and it could be $12 for you. But unless we're comparing that, we don't know that. I mean, I'm not ever going to see that you pay a higher price unless, I mean, when we've caught it is we've been online with each other talking about, hey, we want XYZ, and we're both looking at, running through the list, and then I'll go, oh, here's something and it's this. And invariably Callie will go, oh, well, I can get it cheaper than that.
So maybe I'm the frugal one.
In my
Maybe.
experience, most of the time with Amazon, it has to do with your location because they're
And
projecting
that's
a
what
price to
but
include shipping.
again,
Because
you
my
can't
house
see
versus your
that.
house are not the same.
But I think we also have to take into consideration when you're sitting here talking about boots for the dog, that's different than a loaf of bread and eggs.
Well,
Is
One
and
of
it?
those
here's,
is optional. One of those is necessity.
It doesn't matter.
I think it does.
Discretionary or not, necessity or not, you don't get to charge me
mhm,
more because I can pay more. That's not fair.
I I don't disagree with you. I think that it is just that much more outlandish when you apply that same kind of line of thinking that you can charge people more for necessities such as food.
yeah. I keep
But
thinking
to
about,
break that down and to get into semantics like that just gives them an argument.
Probably. You're probably right.
mm, I keep thinking about, I mean, when you go to the bread aisle, you're going to have 20 different varieties of bread. And just think about white bread. You're going to have 20 different varieties. What is this going to mean to that person who's struggling to pay their grocery bill because they can't, I mean, are we looking at the lower quality is going to have a different price? And they already do, but now then you're exacerbating that so that, is it going to get worse? So the lower quality or you the less healthy foods are going to be cheaper?
Well, they're cheaper to
Mhm.
produce.
Yeah, they kind of already are.
But see what I'm saying? I mean, can this be taken even farther if you're looking at varieties? And
Again, I
and
think you're breaking it down into cells that are needlessly small. Like it doesn't matter. The practice in general is wrong. It doesn't matter what objects you apply it to.
okay,
So I would venture to guess that all of this has very greatly exacerbated since COVID, when we had a big push in terms of technology. Think about it. All of a sudden, you're working from home, you're working remotely. That looks different. And we're ordering curbside groceries every time. And so we became really comfortable with lots of facets of technology that we might not have been so much before. And now we're seeing that change have this carryover effect to things like groceries.
Also, how does this, like, you can go and get a newspaper or a magazine and there are coupons. It says, oh, you can get it for this price.
Mhm.
Well, how do you do that? How do I get a different magazine than you for a sale?
Is it you can get it for this price, or is it you can get $3 off?
Sometimes it's one or the other.
Yeah. And I think that all of those things are still very much in play. I
I think
loyal.
it makes that a lot harder to use as an advertising tool if you're utilizing the system.
Well, but then as again, those companies from their perspective, they have all of this data that they can use to drive that marketing into a specific direction. Hey, We tried charging Mecca, Callie, and Cole $4 for this loaf of bread, and all three of them paid it. Let's push this further. And it's that kind of mind math that I get so irritated with. It's like, this is now on sale. And you're like, it's $3.99 instead of $4. Like this is not what I would
Yeah.
quantify as a sale.
And this is something that we already know companies do. What's to say, okay, you want a new $200 TV, and they say, oh, here's a sale for 25% off, and they just mark it up by 25% and still charge you $200.
Right. That cracks me up when you've got especially like influencers and news outlets, media outlets online for Prime Day. We've been watching this sale all year long, this item all year long. We've been tracking the prices, and it actually is going on sale. Actually, this one says that it's 42% off, but they just marked it up. So don't buy that.
I
Like,
mean,
we
it's a
shouldn't have
whole
to
market
have
in
these
itself.
people. Yes.
And here's the thing, if you do 3 minutes of research for any product that you're going to buy, you can go online and track its price action, its history, just like you can with a stock.
So let's
No, I just was thinking I don't want to have to do that for my loaf of bread.
Well, because you have to do it for your loaf of bread and for your
Mhm.
carton of eggs and for the milk
Exactly.
and for the salt and for the pepper and for this and it just becomes this humongous task. Maybe
You have
this
to
is what
be
we use
you have to
AI
be playing
for.
defense from every other entity other than yourself at all times, which is
Right.
Right.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry, Cal. Where were you going to go?
So, speaking of stocks, I want Cole to get into kind of what's going on in terms of, or has gone on in terms of the egg market.
Egg LIBOR. Yeah, another shout out to a friend from work. So recently, the New York Attorney General has gotten a settlement with several large egg producers in the United States for market manipulation. So the way it works is that egg producers and egg buyers, supermarkets, grocery stores, restaurants, things like that, they have essentially a variable rate contract. They say we need X amount of eggs every week, and the value, what the price that they pay for those eggs fluctuates with supply and demand. And the way that that is measured and determined is the egg exchange. It's an electronic exchange similar to a stock exchange where excess eggs are traded between producers. Because let's say producer A has contracts, they need to ship 100,000 eggs every week and they only produced 90,000. And producer B, they need to ship 150,000 eggs every week, and this week they produced 180,000. Well, the person who needs extra eggs and the person who has extra eggs, they go to this exchange and say, okay, we've got extra, you're going to buy them from us for how much? And that's all based on supply and demand. The same way a stock trade works, you have a bid and you have an offer, and somebody says, well, I'm willing to sell it for this much, and the other guy says, okay, or they say, no, I'm only willing to pay this much. And if there's no other buyers in the market and these guys need to offload their eggs, they have to bring their prices down because the demand is less than the supply. Or vice versa, they say, a lot of people need these eggs, we're going to charge a higher price, and the bidders have to come up and meet them. Well, generally, price action is driven by the buy side, the bid side, oftentimes. So, what was happening is not only were these producers entering erroneous bids to inflate the price, they were colluding with each other to do it. They were emailing and calling each other saying, hey, go submit these bids to buy for higher and higher prices so that we can get a higher rate, because the rate at which their contracts to sell to the egg sellers is based on a price that is tracked and generated by this electronic egg exchange on a regular basis. So just prior to that calculation to say, what's the supply and demand? What are these eggs supposed to be worth? They would all go in and inflate the price by entering a bunch of buy orders, basically. And then just after it was calculated, but before those orders could be executed, they would cancel them. In the stock market, that's extremely illegal, and it's called spoofing. where they have no intention of actually executing the orders. They're simply placing them to increase the price. So the settlement, the punishment was 50 million eggs and $3.3 million. That's across these suppliers.
So that's a
Well, who
fine?
knows?
That's a fine,
Kind
and
of.
how the $3.3 million, where does that go?
The state of New York, I'm assuming.
Okay, and then how 50 million eggs?
The assumption, I think like 3 or 4 million of them were going to food banks in New York. The assumption in the article was that they were going out to food banks across the United States, to other states' food banks, because it's kind of a nationwide thing.
So, I need you to back up just a smidge. How many eggs do we as a country go through every day?
250 million.
And they're being quote unquote charged 50 million eggs.
So a fifth of a daily.
Yeah, 20% of daily supply.
But again, it's it's this big of a penalty.
Yeah.
Who knows how often and how long they've been doing this?
I mean, there was a
God.
I
point
mean,
not too far back that we were paying $7 and $8 for 18 eggs
carton of eggs.
that had been $1.90 or buck and a half the month before. Is this where all of this came from? And if it is, holy cow! And we
Here's the
should all
thing.
be getting
If they're
refunds.
doing that, yeah, you would hope. If if they're doing that and they've been doing it long term, when the demand actually increases or the supply actually drops, it's just going to exacerbate it.
I like that was my next whole point in this. Hey, we're being charged 50 million eggs. How does that then change the supply and demand on these egg producers for that week even? Can they still meet demand? Is it harder to meet demand? Do they get to
Well,
change the price? Does the price fluctuate because demand is harder to meet?
I mean, on some level, almost certainly, yeah. But again, you're talking about a tiny fraction, 1/5 of one day.
Yeah. I don't even think they'll notice it was gone. I mean,
I would.
it's not
Considering
just a
the amount of
slap on
eggs
the
they sell, how
wrist.
long they've been doing this, is this even a
You
portion of the profits that were derived?
Well, and at what point does any regular consumer sit back and go, "Huh, I wonder if I can trust my egg manufacturers?"
who we don't even know and don't have any
We've known for a long
information
time
about.
we cannot trust our egg manufacturers.
But who
That
can you
has not been on
trust?
my list, boo.
Why do you think there's been this whole craze over the last 10, 15 years, cage free range eggs? Because we knew that they sucked.
Also true. I just feel like consumer trust has to be worth something, and it feels like it isn't.
Yeah.
Right, but if you're colluding with the people you're supposed to be competing with, and you're controlling the market, and you are the supplier, and people need eggs, where else are they going to go?
That's just so gross to me.
Welcome to
It
corporatism.
really is, but I mean, how do you fix it? I mean, like we've talked about, I'm
You
not really
actually
worried
punish
about
people for being dishonest. You hold corporations accountable for when they're doing things wrong.
it.
Co
It doesn't sound like we did that very well.
Cole, outside of a commodity like this, if somebody were to be colluding, I mean, is that not insider trading to a point?
Uh, it's not necessarily insider trading. This is because they're not using inside information. Insider trading would be like, hey, I know that this company is about to come out with a product that they haven't announced yet. So I have access to non public information, and I'm going to use that information to base a trade on. This
Okay.
is different than insider trading because it's not necessarily using non public information. To a certain degree, it is, but you're talking almost about like a private market. Like, I can't go to the egg exchange and buy a million eggs. It doesn't really work like that. It's a small market that props up a larger market, which is a common thing in markets, but this is market manipulation, not insider trading.
So if somebody were caught manipulating the market in this fashion for a long period of time outside of a commodity such as eggs, what would their punishment be?
I mean, it depends.
And here's the question. At what point does that fine or punishment just become a business expense? I mean, if you're looking at the eggs and we're thinking that this is a really small, negligible punishment, I mean, a fifth of a day's, you know,
Supply.
quantity for however long they did this, maybe that's worth it.
If I
Maybe that's
remember
just
right, I think the general punishment is like up to 3 times the amount of profit received for insider trading.
See, and that makes sense to me. You went and did all of this bad, crazy shit. We are going to make it hurt. You are going to feel it.
uh, and here's the I mean, I'm super curious how this was caught with the eggs. I mean, who noticed that this was going on? Was this a whistleblower or you I'll
I have
have
no
to
idea.
I'll have to do a little bit more research on that to figure out how it came to be and if it's already gone through the system for the punishment to be out. How far back was this? I'm just super curious and how you find out about it.
Well, and the moment that I always talk about it in terms of violence and things like that. Like we romanticize all of these negative things and we become so much less we become immune to that kind of line of thinking. At what point does making cheating like this profitable start raising red flags so that people go, "Oh, we actually do need to pay attention for a minute. We don't want to tolerate being cheated."
I mean, but what does that mean, Cal? We're not going to eat eggs anymore? We're going to boycott eggs that are in everything?
I
Uh,
mean,
you know,
people
how do you
boycotted Target and they certainly felt it, and it
Yeah, I mean,
sucked for
here's
a
the
lot of
thing.
people
This
for a
isn't
period of time.
every egg manufacturer. Now, that
true?
means that it's going to hurt consumers in the short term because if we're saying we're not going to buy eggs that come from these manufacturers, well, that drastically reduces the supply. And if demand remains the same, that's going to jack the price of these
Yeah.
non-cheater eggs significantly.
I
Just
really,
to
really hate this whole, well, we have to be the guinea pigs for fixing problems
well, that's
generation.
just what a society is.
Don't say that.
But
Does it have to be though? Is that the only allowable truth?
that the world isn't perfect and if you want to participate in it, it's going to suck sometimes. Yeah, that's like sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It can't just be perfect.
I get that it can't be perfect, but I mean, I think I go back to kind of mom talking about raising kids. We were pretty good kids. We were never perfect. And but we also learned to be accountable. We learned what right and wrong were. We learned those differences. And
And how did we do that?
yeah.
By
But I
making
mean,
mistakes and getting punished for it.
Right, but the
uh,
punishment meant something.
yeah, I think that's what Callie's getting at is how do we make whatever the penalty is enough that it warrants people or it encourages people not to just try to milk the system for everything that they're doing. I mean,
But here's the thing, the systems are so vast at this point that how do you monitor all of it? How do you keep how do you physically hold everyone that is a part of the system accountable all of the time?
okay, here's the deal. We're going to have to start texting each other every time we buy a dozen eggs to say, this is what I spent my eggs. This is how much I spent. I was at this store and it cost me this much so that we can see who's cheating the system and who isn't. Yeah,
But
that's not going to
again,
work.
at the same time, even then, that's probably not a large enough data set for us to make that determination.
It isn't.
Well, and are we
Unless
gonna do that
we're
only
buying a
for
dozen eggs
eggs?
every day.
But are we only gonna do this for eggs, or are we gonna do this for all 15 to 50 items on our shopping list this
Well,
week
Uh,
versus next week versus the week after that versus yours versus I mean, like,
so does the FTC monitor this in some way, or is this just whichever
I'm
company wants to do it gets to do it until they get caught?
I mean, I hope they do, but again, how do you monitor everyone all of the time? Do you want a
Yeah.
complete and total surveillance state? So you have to give people the freedom to do bad things and hope that they don't and punish them when they do. Or you can be draconian to totalitarian and say nobody can do anything unless I say so.
That worked for a little while as your mom, but not for very long.
Yeah, exactly. Because eventually you get to the point where, hey, we're tired of you being an asshole. We're tired of your bullshit. We're going to burn it down.
one of
Yeah.
these days he's gonna be bigger than you.
Just to
I
go back real quick, the punishments for insider trading: one, you're liable to any and all parties who participated in that particular product during the time that you were insider trading. Your civil penalties would be up to 3 times the profit realized, but not greater than $1 million. Your criminal penalties would be $5 million for an individual or up to $25 million for non-natural persons, and or a maximum jail time of 20 years.
like, part of me sits here and says, "Actually, that sounds pretty good." Like, I wish we could apply that same logic here, but at the same
The
time,
cap at
like,
a million is not.
right, I would agree. That was the part. But also, we can't afford as a country, as a society, to just start throwing everybody who isn't perfect into jail. We will end up in jail.
Sure, but it's not about being perfect. It's about not intentionally doing harm to other people. And here's the thing: if I'm a company and the maximum penalty is $25 million, but I find a trade where I know I'm going to make 50, there's no incentive for me to not make that trade.
This is so yucky.
But the universe is yucky. Life is yucky. That's just how it is.
Okay, Mr. Cynic.
That's
Easy
not
there.
being cynical. That's being realistic.
It's a little cynical.
How? Explain
Not
to me how
everything
that's
is
cynical.
bad. Not
I'm
everything
not
is
saying everything
bad.
is bad, but bad things exist.
I
Well,
get it. I get it, but surely there has to be a way that in each individual capacity that we can kind of keep some of that more in check.
is that
How?
just is that
How do you keep bad people
personal
from doing bad things?
I have pointy, sharp elbows. That's what I use,
Sure. But that doesn't
or
prevent them from doing bad things. That's you punishing them when they do bad things.
right? Well, they're
I
for hire.
I don't know. I think for I would love to say that it is a lack of accountability and integrity, but I'm not even
That's a huge
sure.
part of it. But why do we have that? Is it because all of these institutions that we have built our society on have not been accountable and have lacked integrity? I would
Right,
agree.
right. But are we just going to say, well, we have lacked integrity this whole time and we've done a shitty job at holding them accountable.
Mm,
So, well, now it's
that
just too big to do anything about. So now this is just what it is. We're just going to go paying $17 million per gallon of milk and per
That
12 eggs.
that's not what I'm saying. Because eventually, just like the totalitarian example, people are going to get fed up with it and they're going to stop working with those entities. Now, that's going to hurt. That's going to be really painful for the society because those entities do provide a service. Whether they're providing that service fairly or not is the question. So, if you have these businesses, these entities that are not treating people fairly, but they're providing necessities, what do you do in the meantime between now and then?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. If you happen to be that person who has to have that item, what do you do when you can't get it?
Y'all, this is the bleeding edge. Somebody's
Yeah.
going to hurt. Somebody's going to pay for all of the costs of that. And at this point, it sounds to me like the only option really truly is, based on how everything is set up right now, The consumer. The consumer gets screwed in all of this. The companies get a slap on the wrist, and the consumer is the one who foots the bill.
But that's how it's been that's not new.
Right. But just because it isn't new doesn't mean that that should be how it continues. That's
Yeah.
my
That's not
point.
what I'm saying.
I just don't know how you stop it from continuing, Cal. I mean, you're looking at it and you know that this bad is happening over here, and you realize that it can't be stopped, or that it's just a slap on the wrist, so it's not ever going to get better. Then it does become doomsday, and I just don't want that.
But what are you going to do?
Here's
There's
the
I
thing.
don't.
nothing for you to do.
A-
So we're just
As
screwed in the whole thing.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that
Somebody
it's
rewind the
going
tape.
it is going to be painful for society to fix this.
I guess the question is, how do you fix it, Boo?
You hold them accountable. You stop letting them do it. And in order to stop letting them do it, it's going to hurt the people that they
No.
make
But
products for.
first, you have to know that they're doing it. Then you have to punish them, figure out a way to punish them in some way. And then you have to make sure that that punishment is significant enough to keep them from doing it again.
You did it with Callie and
It's
I. Was it always peaches?
It's not always peaches in this conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
okay. What else do we have here?
I I just want to know where the line is. The line between corporatization and fairness to consumers. Who gets to decide that?
Both parties have to decide it together. Just like with any relationship, you have to set your own boundaries.
50% of marriages end in divorce.
Okay? So
So,
we're not great at that.
It feels a little lopsided that I, as a consumer, have to be aware of and police and patrol
the judge,
what.
jury, and the executioner at your costs.
Yeah. Yeah. And so while I feel like there should be devices put into place, I'm wondering if those devices need to be reviewed and looked at, and that maybe they're not doing what we want them to do. And I don't know the answer to that. I just know this feels really lopsided. This
I
feels
would agree.
like you say, Callie, that the consumer is just going to get screwed until they realize that they're getting screwed. And then if one person jumps up and down, it's not going to mean very much. So then they've got to organize and figure out and get a whole group together. It is a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that we know that in order for a market to be successful, they need freedom to go and do what needs to be done and ebb and flow and be nimble so that they can keep up with supply and demand and the changing of technology and times. I think that we know that innovation lowers costs. We know that you like that competition, especially when handled in a healthy, productive manner, is really beneficial for so many different parties. We know that technology creates efficiency. We can do things via technology, via AI, much faster than Callie sitting here doing them by her own brain with a calculator real quick. Like, we know all of these things, but we also know that putting too much regulation slows down all of those progresses. Like,
Yeah.
nothing can continue to move forward if we choke it all out.
But if we don't regulate anything, then that creates an opportunity for one party in the equation to take advantage of any other parties in the equation.
Oh, I agree. I agree, but I also think that we have to look at this a little bit differently and talk about essentials versus luxury goods as much as you like your point about, well, we have to treat it all the same. We can't. Well, I think that America today is a perfect example of how we're not even capable of that. But I
I
do
don't know.
believe that technology shouldn't be sitting here, especially quietly exploiting consumers for the sake of the bottom line of a corporation.
An extra tenth of a penny per egg.
I mean,
So to me, the other answer to this is that somehow the corporations have to be responsible, and that there has to be a
Transparency.
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 But you know what? I think it's more than transparency. I think it's that the American consumer has to expect for the corporation to be a corporation, but not a corporation that with the intention of just total greed and exploitation.
But
Yeah.
that's how it's been
Eh,
for so long that that's what people expect from
Ah.
large corporations.
I
Well, if we
know.
don't ever stop it, it will never get
Yeah.
stopped.
I don't
Somewhere,
disagree.
somebody needs to stomp their foot and say,
No, we're not doing
no.
this anymore.
Yeah.
This
I don't
isn't
know where
right.
that is because it's so multifaceted. I don't know where it can possibly be, but holy cow.
And who?
And I
Who?
sure as heck don't want this to come down to, well, she's richer or she's less frugal than you are, so she can spend more. That's crazy. And
Yeah.
you talk about what AI can do for you, Cal, and in these instances, but it's that same double-edged sword that AI can also be the monster.
Mhm.
I mean,
I think I know who we need to stomp their feet. I think we need Jeff Jackson to come start doing some investigation and foot stomping. Remember him? The
yeah.
Attorney General of North Carolina who was in the Senate previously? He does a really good job at putting transparency on display about fighting for the American public and for what is right and what is reasonable and what is honorable. Jeff, where you at, buddy? We need some foot stomping when it comes to grocery pricing.
So are you willing to have a Department of Transparency in the government to handle this? Is that where
That's
we go?
exactly what we need, more bureaucrats. You remember
Kinda
that
thought that.
that form that you had a really just awesome time filling out as I was walking in earlier?
Like,
That's the Department of Transparency.
you just can't tell me that that's the only option. In order for there to be a Department of Transparency, it has to suck. Like, I there are too many incredibly intelligent people and too many incredibly powerful tools out there that the only option is bureaucracy that blows.
I know, but Cal, it comes from the intention. It it's all about.
Yeah, but that form that he's talking about, the intention was not, hey, this is what's better for the person filling this form out. The intention was to cover my own ass so that I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, and all it would take, because I've made these forms, I've done this. Maybe not on quite as huge of a scale, but they can be made reasonably. You can have situations where you say, hey, I'm going to only put a blank for filling out your name on here one time. And then we're going to utilize technology to put it in these 16 different places that we actually need it to be. And then everything will work. And so it changes the whole game here. Like these things can be done with just a little bit of thoughtfulness, a little
Sure.
tiny smidge of humility.
Oh my gosh, though, Callie, I mean, you're sitting there and you're saying that, and I'm thinking about all of the entities that I deal with that don't do that.
But here's the thing, your thoughtfulness and my thoughtfulness aren't the same thing. And if there
Sure.
are 500 of each of us and we all have to agree on what form goes out and we have to account for everyone's thoughtfulness, it turns into a quagmire.
Sure, but it shouldn't turn into a form that has 500 different locations for the same answer. And I'm pretty sure, and I'm not the master debater here of all of this, but I'm pretty sure that I could convince a good chunk of those 500 people that we can settle on fewer than 500 instances for where one's name goes.
I thought that's what democracy was, that the majority ruled. I don't know. He's got a weird thought.
This isn't weird enough. So I have a weird thought for us, which is equally weird, talking about bureaucracy. So, the United States Department of Commerce recently finalized its connected vehicle rule, which blocks connected vehicle technology from companies controlled by China or Russia over natural security concerns. So, because an electric vehicle manufacturer, Polestar, is owned by China's Geely Group, the rule has effectively prevented future Polestar vehicles after model year 2027 from being sold in the United States because it's marketed through a Swedish EV brand, and most models are actually built here in South Carolina, but because it has ties to China, the Department of Commerce has says, nope, we're not doing this. That's not allowed. Can't do it. And so my weird thought becomes this: when does your car stop being just a car and start being a smartphone on wheels? And why do we have to worry about how governments are seeing how connected these vehicles are as potential national security threats? I just am really confused by all of this. And I think it goes back to exactly what you were saying a minute ago. It has to do with the intention. Like, maybe we just need to work on having better, nicer, kinder intentions.
Yeah, but not that's the problem. Not everybody is as nice and kind and has the integrity or accountability that you do.
Sure, but that was trained into me. And if we don't start somewhere, we're totally screwed.
So I think the fascinating part about this to me is that it's not a Chinese vehicle. There's just a portion of it that's owned by a Chinese corporation, but it's not manufactured in China. It's not marketed in China, but it's still going to be blocked from sale in the US. So my first jump from there then goes to, is this protecting somebody else's share of the market?
I'm sure that can be part of it. I think there's also some notoriety of China for corporate, civil, and military espionage built into technology. It's not a new thing, it's been around for a long time. I understand they're not made in China. There have been lots of devices not manufactured in China that have Chinese corporate control that have surveillance built into them.
A la TikTok, that the current administration saved
Which is
because,
very similar to this, isn't it?
right, like we can't even be consistent across the board.
Yeah.
Like, make up your damn mind. And I get the whole thing about being cognizant of which country we trust with our data and which we don't. But is
I'm
that
not
the
even
bottom
convinced we
line?
should trust ourselves with our data because we're obviously using it poorly, a la the conversation we just had.
Also true.
He has a point.
Again, I just go back to this whole thing about, Callie, not everybody is as smart as you, that was said to me here ages ago. I totally get that. But why is it acceptable and reasonable to just, instead of addressing the root cause and addressing the problem, to just say, well, this is a problem and it's really hard, so we're not going to fix it. We're just going to
Because
accept it.
sometimes that problem is only a problem for you and it's good for them.
Where
That's
the
truly
hell
part
is
of it.
democracy now, Mom? Your majority rule. So when do we start stepping in and saying, hey, what's good for the majority of people is where we're going? Instead, we just say, oh, too hard. Never mind. Good for the
No, I
bottom
think
line
it,
of that corporation. Sounds good. Like,
that's
at
what I
what point
think.
are we going to revolt and say, guys, we have to put a stop to this? And we're going to have to do it ourselves because our government and our corporation and our billionaires aren't going to.
Great
I don't
big
think a Swedish
win
EV
question.
brand is going to be the one to do it. I get what you're saying, but
I just, I'm frustrated by this whole
I
throw
get
up our
it.
hands mentality. It is what it is. Too hard. Never mind.
I get it. Well, let me give you some encouraging news.
Hit me with it. I need it.
So, Evan Spiegel, the co founder and CEO of Snapchat, and his wife, model Miranda Kerr recently helped erase more than $550 million in medical debt for over 200,000 Californians. They partnered with a nonprofit organization called Undo Medical Debt, which buys bundles of unpaid medical bills for pennies on the dollar and then forgives them entirely. That means hundreds of thousands of people will receive a letter in the mail telling them that they no longer owe a dime. No application, no catch, just relief. It's a reminder that sometimes a relatively small investment can make an enormous difference in someone else's life, especially when the system itself creates the burden that people often can't escape. So, just to talk about this, the amount of medical debt in the United States is huge and can be catastrophic for a number of people. This company and what the Snapchat co founder has done is to take and just said, I mean, it's the Oprah version of and you get a car and you get a car and you get a car, erasing that amount of debt. Now, here's the cool part. You don't have to be a billionaire to make an impact. Anyone can donate to undo medical debt. And because medical debt is purchased for just pennies on the dollar, even a modest donation can help eliminate hundreds, even thousands of dollars in debt for someone who needs a hand up. You can also invite your company to help contribute. And so it's a really fascinating way. And I mean, kudos to them that they have marked this and taken what they have and put it towards such an amazing use for people who really need the help.
I just went and looked it up. Americans collectively owe at least 220 billion with a B dollars in medical debt, with over 100 million US adults impacted by that.
Yeah.
Almost 41% of adults have some form of healthcare debt. That's that's a lot.
It's that's a whole different subject to get me started on. But this is a huge thing. 200,000 Californians now could be without that medical debt, could go on with their life without worrying about that debt.
That's life-changing.
Life changing.
Wow.
One little bit of encouragement.
I will put a link to, the Undo Medical Debt website in the show notes if anybody has interest. Now, Mom, you do this, don't you?
I do. I have a monthly dollar amount that goes out just because I've seen so many people who just get buried underneath this with no way out. And I mean, I can tithe or I can do this. There's just a dollar amount that I set aside that automatically goes to them.
What an awesome calling on your heart. Thanks for doing that.
Love you guys.
Love y'all.
Love you too.